our personalities, yours and mine, are just so different. I couldn't do what you do. And that's the thing. You all have to find what works best for you.
By the grace of God, we do one laundry load a day, and it's just been so amazing.
And also, I feel like there's some stigma around training kids. And then you're exhausted and you're like, well, I didn't even get breakfast.
It is definitely something like that I probably should tackle. Not this week, probably not next week, but maybe the next week.
Hi, Olivia.
Hi, Mary.
Welcome to episode 2. I feel like we got some of our wiggles out the last episode.
Yes.
Hopefully we just get better and better at having the normal conversations that we have in real life,
And
in front of a
in front of lighting,
in front of a camera. Yeah, looking in the big old eye over there. We are sisters-in-law. Her brother is my husband. We've known each other for over a decade.
Yeah.
In the last couple years, we become very close as we both have young kids. I have a 3-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son.
And I have an almost 7-year-old, literally next month, 7-year-old and a 4-year-old little boy.
They're adorable.
Yes, they're precious.
So today we wanted to talk about enjoying motherhood because I feel like there's so much noise online about how difficult it is, how draining kids are, how exhausting motherhood is. Just drink your coffee to get through the afternoon. Can't wait for wine as soon as the kids go down. That sort of mindset. So we wanted to talk about how we are.
Yeah. I feel like, I'm sorry, I totally just interrupted you, but I feel like it's surviving. It's all about surviving motherhood instead of enjoying it.
It's all about, just getting through, just getting through the toddler years and then getting through the little kid years. And then, oh my gosh, they're teenagers.
Yeah.
And so we're obviously young moms. I've been married for 7 years. You've been married for 6. And so we're definitely not coming at this conversation
like we know it all.
we know it all, because Lord knows we don't.
Yeah, but I totally love, I know Mary does, and I love to also hear different perspectives, what's worked for different people. I just think it's nice and refreshing. Yeah.
While we don't have it all figured out and we're still learning and trying to stay humble through our successes, we are both enjoying motherhood.
Yeah, and we're learning a lot. Yeah. So you can come learn with us a little bit.
So if you want to chat with someone who is enjoying motherhood, kind of how we've gotten here, let's get into it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So I feel like a lot of moms are struggling.
For sure.
And it's almost like the ones who aren't struggling can't talk about it too, because then you're on a high horse, judging people, making other people feel bad.
Or you're being fake or whatever.
Yeah. Isn't that weird? How it you go, I go to the park, I go to the playground with my little kids, and a lot of the moms will just talk about how hard it is, how difficult it is, how the kids have been bad, and yada yada. And I am experiencing similar things. My she's not a toddler, my 3-year-old, screaming in my face or hitting me or whatever, occasionally. I'm experiencing the same hard things, but I feel like my mindset is different.
I think that's about mindset, what you just said. It's all about, everything in life is, but it's about that we have chosen to see the joy. Yeah. And even when it's hard, we've chosen to see the joy. It doesn't mean we don't have bad days, but all around we choose to see the joy in motherhood and homemaking.
So what mindset shifts do you feel like have you always felt like you've always enjoyed motherhood? Because you used to live in an apartment, your circumstances were a lot different.
Yeah, I've definitely gone through seasons of not being resentful of motherhood, but just, I guess you could say almost being a little bit just about the timing of just having young kids and still being young myself whenever I was, younger than I am now. I've definitely gone through seasons of rough motherhood patches, but I've always loved being a mom, honestly. Now, have I always come at it with a grateful heart and all of those things? Heck no.
Yeah.
That is a Jesus thing that has nothing to do with me.
So where do you think you enjoying motherhood comes from? Do you think someone either has it or they don't, or?
I think, no, I think that I mean, I'm a Christian, so I think that my joy comes from being a Christian mom. Now, I know there are plenty of moms who are great moms who are not Christians, but I don't think that I would be able to have this joy if I wasn't a Christian. So maybe, you know, like
well,
maybe.
we each are only talking from our own experiences, too. I have always wanted to be a mom, and I've always enjoyed motherhood, but I used to be a working mom where I was gone from the house 11 hours a day. Basically, I feel like I missed my daughter's first year of life, and my mom spent more time with my daughter than I did because she was babysitting her while I was at work. And so in those circumstances, I'm trying to think back and put myself back in those shoes. I still loved motherhood, but I felt like I was missing out on it, and I was really bitter and resentful about it.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if people listening are working moms who wish they could be stay-at-home moms wishing they could be working moms. Like, I guess it's all about finding the joy where you're at and working towards changing your circumstances if you're not happy with them.
I think that it can be very hard to find the joy in, you know, in any season that you're in life, but I think, like we talked about earlier, it's just making the conscious decision that, like, you can make a change, you can make changes, to find that joy that you're searching for. And it really is just a choice, like, to choose to see the joy in every bit of it, you know?
When it comes to mindset, and I'm thinking about now that I'm a stay-at-home mom, my kids wake me up every morning. I'm not the mom, and I don't really want to be the mom that's like setting an alarm to get up before the kids.
Tried that, didn't work.
I mean, I set an alarm for a decade getting up, going to work every day. And now the freedom of not having to set an alarm because my kids wake me up before my alarm ever went off anyways. So I wake up earlier than I've ever woken up, but I'm happier to get up more than I ever was when I was a working mom. I would lay in bed with my alarm clock going off and literally think in my brain, I would rather be fired today than go into work. Like, than get up out of my bed right now and go to work. And being waking up to my kids, there's a lot of stuff online about, I guess we're talking a lot about online.
Yeah.
Because I feel like people we surrounded ourselves in real life also love motherhood. There's a lot of content online that's like, the kids are screaming in your face. You're waking up to that. You're starting the day hurried, like behind the 8 ball.
Or summer is starting and my kids are going to be trapped at home all summer.
Yes. And so I think it starts with when you first wake up. The mindset you have when you do wake up to your kid crying for you. And kind of taking back the power of the morning. Yeah. So what do you think when you first wake up?
Oh, Lord.
Like, you enjoy motherhood. Let's chat through, like, how every mindset throughout the day.
Yeah. So whenever we wake up, I guess, I don't know. I am very, in a season of my life right now of, like, romanticizing my life, like the little things. So I'm obviously I'm grateful and all of those things, but I'm very big about, like, being overly excited to see my kids in the morning, like, hi, just I don't know, I'm very about romanticizing it, and I feel like that helps find that joy too. I think that it's a blessing, and I think about that a lot.
I think you and I both do mornings really slowly too.
For sure.
And I think slow mornings have changed the game for me versus rushing around trying to be somewhere or do something.
Yeah, literally this morning I had to get up early to come here, and Marion's fault. So I had to set an alarm for her. But anyway, I'm just kidding. So I intentionally, so that I didn't have to rush or feel anxious or whatever, woke up a little bit earlier, so I think just being mindful of loving on my kids in the morning and loving on my husband, and just setting a calm environment in our home has been game changer. Obviously making sure our kids have breakfast, things like that. But we also have our little tiny homestead. So just doing all of the things. Yeah. I don't know. We have a like routine.
A rhythm.
Yeah, a rhythm. I won't say routine, but we have a rhythm of how things flow. And our kids are used to that. And it's how things work for us. I'm not saying it works for everybody, but works for
So
us.
how do you optimize your environment to make it conducive to things going well? Because I feel like what a lot of moms are struggling with to enjoy motherhood is feeling out of control, like having to do the same tasks over and over, clean up, or feeling behind, feeling like they're not doing a good job.
So what I have found that works for us is I call it my closing up of the house. So like every single night our kids go to bed usually around 8. So when they go to bed, I will close up the house. And everything's clean and stuff by then, but it's closing up the house.
That's such a cute way to, I'm going to start saying that.
It is. It's
Drew
very...
and I don't know why we say this, but Drew and I call it fluffing the house. Is that weird?
That is weird.
Closing up the house sounds a little more like official.
Yeah. So everything is... I talked about this in our previous episode, but I'm very big about like if it takes less than 10 or 15 minutes, get it done. So everything stays clean throughout the day, unless I'm just having an off day or somebody's sick or something like that. But we close up the house every single night, and I make sure the dishwasher is unloaded. I make sure everything is set and clean and the floors are clean and all of that. Before we go to bed, so that when we wake up in the morning, it is peaceful. We know what the kids are going to have for breakfast. We know I go ahead and we really like French press coffee, but the last few mornings I've been cheating a little bit, and we've been programming coffee in the coffee maker, but just like waking up to the smell of coffee, like that's just,
yeah,
I love it. I'm home. My husband's home. Our kids are home. So making breakfast and just, our biggest thing that has helped us lately has been making sure the house is completely set to flow smoothly the next morning by making sure everything is closed properly the night before.
Something that Drew and I do that we love about, like, we also close up the house, but we do it together sort of as a team while the kids are awake, like during their bedtime routine. So we'll put the kids in the bath. One of us might hang out in there or like tidy up the bedroom while one of us is tidying up the kitchen and fluffing the couch and all that. So that then we do bedtime routine most of the time together, where I'll normally maybe get the baby down, he'll get our 3-year-old down, and then the kids go to sleep or they're in bed happy about to go to sleep. And then we're done, like literally done for the night. And it's a really good feeling to have why not that last hour of the day, whenever a lot of times kids are starting to get fussy, why not just like go ahead and get the house cleaned up then? So then once like the finish line is reached of bedtime, you can relax with your husband. Do you guys do it before or after the kids go to bed?
We do it while, like you were saying, so like while they're getting settled in bed. So like while they're calming and still kind of, up playing a little bit, and we're yelling through the house, go to bed. That's when we do it.
Because they share a room.
Yes. Which, disclaimer, you'll figure this out eventually. Our kids are still not completely trained to sleep in their bedroom, and one of them's almost 7. So a lot of the time that's on
So they start in their bedroom?
Yes. They start in their bedroom and then end up making their way to our bedroom. Lately, it's just been falling asleep on our floor, though, which has been fun. At least it's our floor, not our bed, though.
I noticed last time I was at your house that my kids actually have the same bunk bed that your kids have.
Yeah.
And it was probably 6 months ago. I had trained both my kids to sleep in the room together. So my 3-year-old was on the top bunk, which it's a pretty short bunk bed.
Yeah.
And then my almost 1-year-old was on the bottom floor bed, and for about a month and a half they slept in there every night, and I was winning at life.
I know.
And then our family got really sick, and we were extremely sick for multiple weeks, and just the sleep stuff, it all just fell off the rails. So now our 3-year-old sleeps in our guest bedroom, and she's kind of taken that over. My son sleeps in a pack and play in their bedroom, and nobody sleeps in the bunk bed.
Yeah, I honestly, like, for us, the whole sleeping thing, I don't know. People have such strong opinions about this. And obviously, I think if sleep training works for you, do it. And obviously, I wish my kids were sleep trained. It's super frustrating that my almost 7-year-old is, she does seem more interested in it now. But anyway, it's kind of one of those for us, like pick and choose your battles. Like there are bigger issues for us to, conquer. So I've tried multiple times, but I just have not had the kick in the butt to
early with them though. Yeah. So Drew and I get the kids down, and I mean, our personalities, yours and mine, are just so different that I couldn't do what you do. Like, and that's the thing, you all have to find what works best for you, because we get the kids to sleep and then we're still up for like 3-4 hours alone without them, and it's like my recharge time, and it's almost like you don't need that like I do.
What's funny though is I have like felt myself needing it more so lately because we're homeschooling and like everyone's literally just home all the time. So it is definitely something like that I probably should tackle. Not this week, probably not next week, but maybe the next week.
What's special about the next week? Next week.
I don't know. Maybe I'll feel the desire to tackle it. At least they're sleeping. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. So another way that we optimize our environment to make things go smoothly in the laundry department, and not to say it's always going smoothly in the laundry department. Sarah can attest to that. I've consolidated all of our clothes heavily, and all the clothes from the entire house are in 2 closets that are near each other, the kids' closet and mine and my husband's closet. And we have 1 hamper for our whole house. So the 1 hamper stays in the laundry room, and just as clothes are taken off throughout the day, they're either put in there or they're dropped on the bathroom floor. And just as I'm doing my little tidies throughout the day, I grab the laundry from the floor, put it in the hamper. And so by keeping everything in the 1 hamper, I can always visually see where our laundry situation is at. So if the hamper's full or overflowing, you got to do laundry, versus if you have like 3 hampers all over the house, you can let them all get full and then it's out of control. And so that's one way we've optimized to kind of stay on top of the laundry situation.
So Tevin and I have been, we're not anymore, we have tackled this demon, but in the past have been so bad about laundry. Well, me, we would leave hampers like in our closets that have a door so you could shut it and you out of sight, out of mind. And it would just pile and pile and pile. But by the grace of God, we do 1 laundry load a day, and I fold it that afternoon. And it's just been so amazing. But I will tell you the few things that we learned. Number 1, we needed to go through and get rid of stuff that had rips in it, like underwear that have holes in it. What is up with men keeping their holy underwear? Like, why is this a thing? Anyway, so getting rid of stuff that doesn't fit the kids and donating it, and stuff like the pair of pants that that you're hoping to fit back into or whatever, you can buy new ones.
My 1-year-old has 2 sleep sacks, and he has to wear a sleep sack every night. And so one's normally in the hamper or the wash, and one's on him. And if we had 5 or 6, I feel like it would be able to pile up more. Yeah. It's like, oh, now there's 3 in the hamper. Now there's 4 in the hamper. Now, And so with every article of clothing, I try to think that way. Like, just have a couple, because the more you have, the more it can pile up.
Yeah. I want to be cautious though, because when I was working and was also like bringing in money, I could become like a little bit prideful and be like, okay, well, this doesn't fit me like I want it to right now. I'm going to get rid of it, and I'll just buy a new one next week if I needed to. Now we're on 1 single income, and you're being a little bit more cautious and things like that. So it is a little bit like hard to get rid of things, whereas it used to be a lot easier. But
so you're saying with less, or I'm saying with less things, and by minimizing, it's easier to stay on top of the mess.
For sure.
And you're saying it's harder to get rid of things when you're a little more strapped financially.
Yes. But no, I totally agree about the less is easier. You're way better at that than I am. But yeah, I was actually telling you earlier today, I believe, that Mary does the whole no fold method with her laundry, and it really triggers me. I tried it.
So for my kids' laundry, So I still fold my husband's and my laundry, but for my kids' laundry, as I'm doing the laundry, I pile it all in a basket, and then I take the basket to their closet, and they have bins, and I just toss my daughter's shirt, my son's shorts, my daughter's bathing suits, toss it in the bins without folding, and I love it.
A lot of people are switching to that, though. You know what I think it is for me, though? The reason I can't is because I don't have enough space to put their clothes in. Like, I don't have a designated bin situation,
So
you know?
everything's
they
kind
have
of hung up?
No, I mean, they have drawers, but they're not enough for me to just, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To throw stuff in there.
So I want to pick your brain because we're talking about optimizing our home environment to make it easier to find joy in motherhood. And I want to pick your brain about how you handle groceries and dinners and food and constantly as the mother having to feed your family over and over and over and over, and how you like optimize it and find joy in that.
So
Because I'm not good at that and Olivia is.
A couple of different things. I bake a lot of bread, so I've tried as of lately, because I didn't realize how expensive it is to run your oven all day, every single day to bake bread. So like we eat a ton of bread, obviously. That's what I make. So I'll have like one specific day where I bake all of our bread for the week, and I will just, we'll wrap it in parchment paper or whatever. So that's one of the things that's helped a lot, because then you have that.
I love how I just asked you how to optimize like cooking for your family, and you're like, bake all your bread from scratch.
Yeah, sorry.
That's like level 10, okay? I have recently climbed my way close to that
she
level.
bakes her bread from scratch too.
I do some of the time. Because
unless I bring it to her.
Because you've inspired me. But
yeah.
Yes, I think a lot of moms aren't on the bake their family their own bread train.
Yeah.
Yet.
So the other thing that I had just started doing recently is I will make a list. So we do our grocery shopping every other Thursday. We'll go and we have chicken, so we don't need eggs. We have a milk lady, so we don't need milk. But I'll spend the first half of the day on that Thursday making like meals that everybody's like either been wanting or stuff that I know would be affordable to feed us or whatever. So I did that yesterday, and it's just things that I know my kids will eat, that hopefully there'd be some leftovers for us to enjoy the next day. But yeah, just kind of coming up with a meal plan, which I know freaks you out. But having a little bit of a meal plan, and I'm interested, this isn't something we've been implementing for a long time, but I'm interested to see how it helps us save money and groceries, because groceries are expensive right now.
I do love making a dinner and making enough of it, because you're already going through the hassle of it, to have either leftovers for lunch or dinner again the next day. But I don't mind eating the same thing over and over.
Yeah. I don't either. We don't have a microwave. So
I know. She gave me a wonderfully delicious plate of fresh banana bread last time I was at her house. And I was like, oh, this is going to be so good, warmed up with some butter. And there was no microwave.
I know. Yeah, we're not microwave people as of lately.
Yes.
But it's been a learning process, because when I worked, we ate out every single night. That's just the truth. We ate out every single night because I wasn't home. But now that I am home, it's been interesting getting back into the rhythm. Something else I've started doing, though, that's been really helpful is if I am baking bread, I will bake extra and throw one in the freezer. Or if I'm baking if I'm making a bunch of whatever it is, you can throw stuff in the freezer.
I love making homemade lasagna. It's like my go-to. My specialty, yes. And it's just as easy to make 2 lasagnas. So I almost every time make like a half size to put in the freezer. And it's the perfect portion for me, my husband, and my 2 kids. I mean, we couldn't like host anyone with that freezer lasagna, but it's nice to have.
Isn't it so nice, though, just to be able to like pull something out of the freezer super quick and know that like, this is very deep, but like know that it's healthy, like because you know what was put in it and all of those things. I don't know. You're
so sentimental about it.
I really am. I'm a very deep person.
You're like,
it's very
there's
exhausting.
love in there. Yeah.
But yeah, that's what's worked for us, is just grocery, making meal plans, at least some sort of a meal plan, freezing extras, We eat a lot of eggs because we got a lot of chickens.
How do
well,
you
I don't eat a
optimize-
lot of eggs. But
I know have some mom friends who struggle just to get through the day, like entertaining their kids. So I wanted to talk about how we, again, disclaimer, not the best at it, but we try, and in a lot of ways what we're doing right now is working. How do we train our kids to like participate effectively throughout the day and to get through the day having everyone wasn't bored all day. Like I have some friends who will be like, I don't know what to do with my kids, like they're bored or I'm overwhelmed or whatever. Like what are ways we can train our kids not only to function in like the ecosystem of our healthy family culture, but enjoy their life while you can also enjoy your life. And also I feel like there's some stigma around training kids. It's almost like they're allowed to be and do and feel and have anything they want at any time of the day. And while I do believe both my kids are autonomous humans with their own emotions, their own life experiences, I also think just like teaching them to eat well or teaching them to sleep or teaching them to be respectful, like you can train all those things.
Yeah.
Right? And so what do you think about training, and I'm putting that in air quotes for people not watching, training your kids?
Yeah, I think that it's like you talked about in our last episode. Our kids are a direct reflection of us, right? So I think that you were touched on the boredom thing. I have
like
an almost
some moms are like,
yeah,
what am I supposed to do with my kids all day?
Mm-hmm. So you and I are a bit different in this because you like to get out and do things. We don't. We literally, my kids probably do, but we just don't. We're in a season of life right now where it's just not. It's not a very.
I wore your kids out the other day.
Yes, she did.
So So I really do like to get out of the house with my kids a lot. I have an Instagram page called St. Augustine with Kids, and we live in St. Augustine, Florida, and we like to explore like what our town has to offer. And I just am big about like, you're big about we're making memories at home, and I'm
so big
we're
about
making memories out and about, and it's just personality difference.
Isn't it so funny though how different we are in that aspect? So if we ever need a thrill, like if our kids ever need a thrill and need to go swimming in a pool with other kids, we come to Aunt Mary's house.
I gave Olivia the day off the other day.
That was nice.
And I took both her kids on an adventure. And your daughter, was exhausted. And I was like,
still talking about it.
I was like, I run kids hard. We get worn out. But honestly, it's not because I'm entertaining them though.
Yeah.
It's not like
it's
I'm
the
like
experiences, I feel like, So I'm the complete opposite, just honestly, because even if I were, I started to say earlier that, it's just not an attainable thing for us to go out on adventures or stuff all the time. But honestly, even if it was, I don't know that we would.
Yeah.
Because of I really feel like for this season of my life, and maybe forever, because it's just who I am and who my husband is, like it's just home. You know what I'm saying?
You love
like
the simplicity of being home.
Yes. And when I tell you that my kids...
How do you handle the boredom?
Yeah.
Supposed boredom.
Yeah. So lately we have a huge backyard. Our kids have a pool. We have our chickens. We have our garden. Our kids are learning to become more independent. Our little boy is very independent. Our 7-year-old, bless her heart, is getting there. So we obviously spend a lot of time outside. We spend a lot of time swimming. We spend a lot of time playing with the chickens and collecting chicken eggs. And
do you feel like you're always setting up their activities and being their coordinator and like, okay, now they're bored, I need to come up with something else for them to do? Like, how do you manage?
Yeah. Honestly, no. I like sometimes, like, are there days like that throughout the week? Yeah, for sure. Now I try and set up at least like one activity, like it's a set activity. Like, okay, guys, I want you to go outside and collect leaves. And then later this afternoon, we're going to come in and we're going to color, just different things like that. Or this afternoon, we're going to have a big family pool party and grill burgers and hot dogs, like things like that. But no, because being bored can be good.
No, I think we're the same in that way.
Okay.
So my kids are a little bit younger, so I do have to be a little bit more attentive to them, I think. But I'll tell you a way that I train my kids that I think is setting us in the right direction. So, for example, in the morning when we get up, I typically tend to them first. I'll make their breakfast while I'm making my coffee, and they have their breakfast, and then I prepare my breakfast, and then I go sit down to eat my breakfast, and I cannot help them while I'm eating my breakfast. I mean, it's a little bit different for my 1-year-old because he can't even talk, but my daughter will be like, oh, Mom, I actually want jelly on my biscuit. Oh, Mom, can I have an apple juice? Oh, will you make me this or that? And I'm yes, I can do that for you after I'm done with my breakfast.
Right.
And so I not only want to prioritize my needs, like appropriately, obviously, but I want them to realize that, like, I'm not jumping when they say jump, and it's not hurting them in any way. Like, she'll be like, okay, I'll wait 10 minutes to get my apple juice. Speaking of training your kids, I think that allows me to continue to find joy in my day, which in turn makes everyone's day go better. Because so many moms, including myself many times, you're helping with this, you're helping with that. Oh, they want this kind of fruit instead of that kind of fruit, and now you're having to get up to put more butter on the thing that they licked off, and yada yada yada, and then you're exhausted and you're like, well, I didn't even get breakfast. And that's just, you can train your kids to wait.
Yeah, that's definitely something you're really good at and that I struggle with and have just recently started to try and shift. Especially with our little boy, because of him being I use this excuse all the time, and I probably should stop, but it really is genuine.
He's almost 5 years old, and you're like, he's our baby.
He is. He's our last baby. We will never have another one. And he is getting better about just the neediness of mommy and mommy, can you bring me my water? And obviously his dad can be pretty firm with him about that, but he's getting better about not being so emotional whenever mommy's like, nope, buddy, like, you gotta, sissy's not getting it for you.
Have you tried saying, like, yeah, I'll get you your water in 5 minutes? Yeah. Like, positive.
And then they're like, no.
Ah! He's like, I'm smarter than that,
he's
mommy.
Like, no, mommy, no. Now, please. But yeah, no, it's definitely something we're working on. My husband would have had this worked out 3 years ago or 4 years ago if I would have let him, just handle it. This is part of this whole submission thing that I'm working on. But yeah, no, he's getting there. And also just reminding myself too that, like, I feel like as parents, sometimes we're like, this situation we're going through right now, my kid not being more independent is just the end of the world. And then there's always going to be something, right? There's always going to be a new battle forever. Because that's just
then once you're out of one battle,
it's going to be something else.
You forget.
You're going to look back.
You look back and you're like, oh, wait, they're no longer doing that thing that was absolutely driving me nuts.
Yeah, my baby is not breastfeeding enough. I'm not producing enough milk. And then the next thing you know, you look and they're 7 years old. And you know what I'm saying? Seriously. Like, it all works out in the end.
Okay, speaking of independence, how do you feel about talking about training children towards independence?
This is something new that I've been working on, which we've kind of talked about a little bit. I'm definitely a recovering helicopter mom. Low key though. I was never like
you were a quiet helicopter mom.
Yes, I was a judgy, like, I judged other helicopter moms, but I was low key a helicopter mom, I don't know why. I don't know why, but I was always afraid that my kids would get hurt or I don't know. It was just a million different things. I could make a million different excuses. But I really have just learned that, like, they are figuring this big world out too. They're figuring their bodies out. They're figuring their tummies out, like all of these things. So, like, giving them a little bit of room to figure it out.
Anyone who knows me knows my kids are very well taken care of, but there's few things that bring me as much joy as seeing them be independent.
And they are independent.
So obviously they're small and they need me in a lot of ways. But I think some moms who are feeling really smothered or overwhelmed, try encouraging some independence, and not only might it bring you some joy, but it also just bring you some space. Like, I will send both my kids into their little playroom, and I could go in there with them, but I purposefully will stay just out of eyesight, like I can still hear them, just to where they get used to playing together without me like being right there.
Yeah.
And I say that to also say I also regularly ask to join their play too. When you're talking about training a child, I'll go and, hey, honey, can I help you color this page? And her eyes light up and yes, yes. And I think by getting that like emotional connection with me, it almost allows her to feel safe to do things on her own too. So it's not like I'm half in, half out, like constantly with her, constantly supervising, like right on top of her, but also like on my phone and, you know, doing all these other things. I'm focused on her, and then I'm focused on this other task I need to do, and then I'm focused on eating my own breakfast. And so I feel like for me and my personality, it's helped me find a lot of joy in motherhood, to know like my life can still function at the same time as my kids having a good childhood. It doesn't have to be like me sacrificing everything to their whim. Does that make sense?
And I think it's so good for them to see that.
Yeah.
You know, we've been trying so hard. Oh my goodness. When I tell y'all that my 4-year-old, bless his heart, if he ever watches this back when he gets older,
I doubt he'll have any interest.
I know. My 4-year-old is a mama's boy.
So is my boy.
He is a mama's boy. If mama's literally, I can hear him right now, and it makes me, I mean, I love him so much. But he will, you know, be playing in his bedroom for like an hour, and I won't be, you know, I'll be, you know, in the other room washing dishes or whatever. And he'll yell through the house, "Mama?" And I'm like, "Yeah, buddy." He's like, "Nothing." He just wants to know that like I'm
I think
close.
that's wonderful,
it's
though.
so sweet.
I think it's awesome. I feel like I'm very multifaceted when it comes to parenting style, because I'm also an attachment parent. I think to the best of your ability, you shouldn't separate a baby from its mother before they are emotionally and developmentally ready for it.
Yeah.
So my kids, I'm over here talking about how independent my kids are, but also we can't hardly leave them at the church nursery because those people are strange people and they just don't feel safe.
Yeah.
But we can leave them with their babysitter. We could leave them with you. We could leave them with my husband. While they do have a lot of independence under supervision from like safe people that they love, there I don't think, and because we haven't forced it, they're not developmentally at an age where I could just leave them with anyone and then feel safe and independent.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like a little gentle parenting, a little attachment parenting, a little authoritative parenting.
That's so good though, because I do feel like parents are like, well, I just have to be one or the other, and that's not true.
Like, I'm a gentle parent. Like, that's what people will think, and everything they do has to align with that philosophy.
Yeah. I've decided I'm not crunchy and I'm not a gentle parent. I'm like the exact in between of all of those things. But what I was saying about my little boy, it's so sweet when he does that. But then at the same time, we have this big, amazing bathtub in our bathroom, and I will be like in there trying to relax, and mom's going to relax, and you're four, so you're totally fine to be independent. But then I see a little head peeking up under. So just so we are. And he started saying, like, "Mom, I need my privacy."
Aww.
He'll say that to me. So I've started telling him, "Hey, bub, mom needs her privacy too." So, it's such a battle, but it is so sweet. And I will miss this. I do know. I will miss him needing me.
Yeah. Speaking of training kids, what do you do? And we may not have the answers. When they're just driving you nuts.
Yeah. When
you're a stay-at-home mom, you want to find the joy in motherhood, but your kids are driving you nuts. Whether they're whiny or demanding or abusive. Like, honestly.
Yeah. I think for me, something Tevin and I have gotten really good at is like depending on each other. So like, and he usually can pick up on the cues most of the time, but like where he'll come in and be like, okay, like let me go outside and catch lizards with them. I mean, really depending on your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's working and you can't, then
Yeah. I believe.
I haven't figured that quite out
So
yet.
I believe in the power of separation.
Yeah.
Like, so many parenting philosophies are like validate every emotion that they have, which I do believe. Every emotion is valid. But then a lot of them follow it up with like bring them close to you, like hug them, connect with them. And I believe in most situations that can work, but if they're like hitting you or being mean to you or being mean to their sibling and won't stop, I just think enough is enough sometimes, and you need to go to your room and be by yourself. And it's probably dependent on personalities, but for my 3-year-old daughter, I feel like she thrives off of that. She needs the separation. It's almost like she's overstimulated. And if I try to keep her in the room with us and just like talk her down or cater to her needs or whatever, it's almost like she gets even more overstimulated and she gets more fueled up versus if I, all right, you're going to spend some time in your room and we don't really even call it time out. It's just like, you're going to take a break in your room. And we'll take her to her room and we'll give her her books and we'll set her on her bed that she doesn't sleep in her old room. And then you can watch her on the baby monitor just flipping through her books, like unwinding. And it really does help her. But I think some moms think like the kid has to be there with you on top of you all the time. But like you need some space from them,
Yeah.
So you take some space, they take some space.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever do that?
Yeah. Especially with our oldest, our 7-year-old daughter. Yeah. She will, go in and lay on her bed and, read books or whatever. And it really is that every kid is different because I think that helps her. Our 4-year-old little boy, not so, I can't remember ever a time where we've done that just because he'd rather like go outside and play or whatever, but still it is alone time. So yes.
Yeah. So you'll send him outside.
Yeah. He'll go play or whatever, or go play in the other room with Legos or whatever. But yeah, no, for sure. I think that alone time is essential and for them too,
Yeah. And for us.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
All right. So how do we align our actions with our family values? And I'm wondering, like, how many people have actually consciously thought about what their family values are? I've only recently been thinking about this, and I want my husband and I to come up with, like, an actual sign or something for our house that embodies what our family values are. But what do you think, off the top of your head, you think your family values are?
I would say that, there's probably, like you said, I'd have to really deeply think about it. But one of the biggest values that we have just recently come up with that's like non-negotiable is apologizing, like saying, I'm sorry. If you're wrong, right then apologizing, like not waiting. If you're wrong, apologize. If you were even сlightly in the wrong. And I'm not talking about just my husband and I'm talking about us apologizing to the kids too. I just think it's so important. It's so important for our kids to kind of like what you were talking about. I remember being a kid and like the adults were never wrong, you know? And for our kids to see that, like, no, we're dead wrong sometimes. Like, we're human.
We are actual adults now. You're 28, I'm 31. Yeah. Like, I feel like we're established adults. Like, still young adults, but adults nonetheless. And think about, like, the struggles we go through mentally on a daily basis and trying to mother these children and trying to manage our houses and trying to manage all these things. And when our moms were this age, they already had a couple kids and like it's hard to imagine when we were a kid. They seemed so old and they were never, I don't remember them ever quote unquote being wrong, But they were like our age right now, and I feel like I'm wrong all the time.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with like how they were raised. You know what I'm saying? So like the way that they were raised, I think you and I, especially being very mindful of like generational sin, and not that I don't honestly, like my mom was a phenomenal mom. She, you know, cooked for us, and she was like everything that I know about Jesus is because of my mom, which is the most important part of my life. So praise God. But there were definitely things that I learned from her that I want to do differently. And she knows that. That's no secret, Mom, if you're watching this. So just the way that they were raised, and then you and I deciding that, like, no, we want, you know, because we could have. And I will tell you, and Mary could attest to this, even a year ago, I was just stuck in the ways of how I was raised. Of gentle parenting is a joke, and it's sick, and just all of it.
You definitely were in the mindset of like the parent knows and the child
and
knows
that
nothing.
You don't, that it doesn't matter what they think. Like I'm the authoritarian, and God just really started wrestling with me about that they belong to him. And that, like Mary said in our last episode, are a direct reflection of me. So, you know, to really think about the way that I'm raising them. And that doesn't mean that if you are an authoritarian type of parent that you're a bad parent. I was a great parent. But just I knew things had to shift because it wasn't working. And I started to like really look into, you know, just really dig deep into why I was the way that I was. I was very angry.
I think I am parenting differently than my mom parented me, but I think she parented her kids very differently from how her mom parented her. Yeah. So it's almost like us all just taking.
That's true. And my mom may be parenting us completely different than she was raised. So it's almost like
taking what you learned from your childhood and making tweaks to it to hopefully improve it. Like we're all wanting to improve, but then I'm wondering what our kids are going to say about us and be like, I'm not going to do this and I'm going to tweak this.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they will. Yeah, you know, like I'm really sure that they will. And that's hard, but it's like,
and we have so many years ahead of us to screw it up.
I know. Yeah, I tell you that my mom literally was such a good mom. She really was. And she definitely, thinking about it now, she definitely raised us differently and the best that she could, you know, better than she was raised. But we're all like just trying to do better.
So one of the fun, like when I think about the family values that I want my family to have, clearly independence is one of them. That's been a common theme. Loving the Lord is obviously one of them. Having financial knowledge is one of them. But when it comes to some of the more fun family values, I really want to weave like creativity through my family. And what I mean by that, because I am not an artsy mom, I do not enjoy arts and crafts. My daughter has taken a real shine to it lately, so we stocked up our arts and crafts cabinets, and it's been the bane of my existence, but you know, all for her. But I want my kids to be creative and inventive and leaning towards entrepreneurship and things like that. And so I'm thinking about like that family value, how it is reflected in the actions that we take. Or if your family value is like health, like you want health to be a family value, are the actions you're taking aligning with that family value? Or if your family value is like friendliness or something, are you getting out there and making friends? And you know, I've only recently started thinking about this, and I actually want to do another episode about this, so let's not get too far off the rails, but determining what the values are for your family and then making sure what you're doing in the day-to-day or the week-to-week or every month aligns with that, because I think some of us are just trying to survive through the day, just trying to survive the young years with the kids versus being intentional about, if I want my kids to be creative, they do have to have less TV time, you know? Or if I want my kids to have an expanded palate and eat lots of different foods. I have to offer lots of different foods. And so doing what you can control to influence your family culture to be around what your values actually are. And some people might not value, independent play the way that I do. Mm-hmm. And they'll have to identify what their values are and make sure their actions align with that.
One of the values that I would say is super important to me, and I don't really know, I haven't quite figured out how to like really cultivate it or obviously you can kind of figure it out yourself, but that my kids, they're obviously brother and sister, are super close, that like they just know that like their relationship for this part of their life is the most important relationship.
Yeah.
And
my family says, we have a little mantra, you've definitely heard us say it a bunch, but our family is a team. Mm-hmm. We say that every other day. Hey honey, like to my 3-year-old, our family is and she'll say team. And that's a big value of ours. Mm-hmm. Like, we are a team. We're tackling life together. Sort of what you're saying. I want my daughter and my son to be a team against the world, and not butting against each other, which
it's hard, and like they're growing and all of that. But I do think them being each other's biggest like supporter and all of that is just super important.
Best friends. Yeah.
I think that it's going to be really, really cool. And like I said, I haven't quite figured out how to really pour into, obviously, their siblings. We're home all the time. Like, they'll kind of figure it out. But, I just think that's super important.
Cheering each other on instead of, like, competing with each other.
Yep.
Competing for your attention or competing for the best serving of food or whatever. Like, the more they collaborate, the better versus compete. Collaborate over compete.
T-shirt.
So the last thing I feel like I wanted to hit on related to enjoying motherhood, finding joy in motherhood, is the influences that we allow into our family culture. I'm wanting everyone to really identify, and I need to clearly identify what my family values are, and then identify what influences are coming into our family culture and what I'm okay with and what I'm not, and what boundaries need to be put in place. And the first thing that comes to mind is TV. Like, there's a lot of shows that for my 3-year-old don't align with what I want our family values to be. So I have to be really cognizant of that. But then there's also, relationships and...
Yeah. So that's recently something that we have become really big about in our house. And it's just about, for us, just being super mindful, like you were saying, just being mindful of how every little thing, like, is either, every person is either a positive influence or a negative influence. And there is darkness or light attached to everything. And we're very, very mindful of the people we have relationships with, the places that we go, the music we listen to, just all of it. And it's not always been easy. It's been hard. But I just feel like they are worth it. Like their innocence and frankly being obedient to God is worth it. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's all worth it. And it's something that, like, obviously you pray over a lot, and
it takes a lot of intentionality.
Yeah, for sure. Because it would be much easier to just be like, oh, okay, well,
yes, it would just go with the flow. It would be much easier to just, whatever is in front of you, don't make any waves, like, don't make anything awkward, just go with it.
I'm telling you, as someone who's literally done that my whole life, even my kids' whole life, that this is something I just recently figured out, that God, as scary as it seems right now, God is going to massively bless you if you just do what he tells you to do. And he will make it clear. If he wants you to not be somewhere, he's going to make that clear. If he wants your kids not to be watching specific stuff, he's going to make that clear.
I feel like if you have a relationship with the Lord, I think one of the biggest blessings he has given us related to how he communicates to me is through peace. So I don't feel like the devil would ever, like, give you peace around something. Like, first of all, you know what's biblical,
Right.
you know, but there's a lot of gray area related to like how you should raise your kids, who you should hang out around, what you should allow them to watch, where you should go, where you should spend your money. There's a lot of freedom allowed within a biblical mindset.
Yeah.
But then determining, you know, if it's biblical, but you don't know to choose A or B, I feel like you pray about it, you seek counsel, you discuss with your husband, and then you make a decision, and you either feel peace or you don't.
Yeah. You just hit on something too. And I think that it's super important that I've just recently learned. If your husband is a man of God, allow your husband to lead your family without spirit of discernment. He's going to, God's going to show him, and he will know like what is and what, you know what I'm saying? Like if my husband, and he will sometimes, our kids will be watching something on TV, and I obviously will know what it is, but he works from home. He'll walk out of his office and he'll be like, I don't like them watching this. And I'm not, typically I would have been like, what the heck? Like, what are you talking about?
Fine.
There's nothing wrong with this. But if he says that, like, obviously his spirit of discernment sensors are going off, and I'm going to just like, why wouldn't you, you know? Like God gave him that place in our family, and I'm going to trust him with it. And I feel like it should be a prayer for all of Christians, specifically to just really, for God to strengthen that spirit of discernment, for it to be very sensitive.
Because the more you push back against that discernment, push back against peace, you know, then you are kind of dulling that sense.
Yeah. If you keep giving in, then eventually you're not going to feel it anymore, you know? You're not going to. So I think just be sensitive toward it, and
towards the influences into your life, into your home, into your family culture.
Yeah, and just really be tuned into what God says about it, because he will tell you. He'll make it very clear. And you just have to follow him and do what, you know, he says is right for y'all.
So we wanted this to be just a chatty episode about finding the joy in motherhood. I feel like, you know, the tides could turn, but Olivia and I both do have a lot of joy in motherhood. I do feel like, especially for me, it's been like almost a skill that has been cultivated, and will wither and die if I don't continue to feed it, you know, the things that kind of give life instead of the ones that speak death. And it's all about the mindset. It's all about setting up your environment in a way that's conducive to smooth living. It's all about training your kids to be contributing members of your household, right? And about the influences that you allow into your life, and the values that you set up around your family. Like family culture should be intentional. Finding joy in motherhood is something that can be discovered. And it's just so wonderful that as mothers, while you say, and I think you're correct in that fathers, husbands should lead their families with discernment, but I feel like mothers and wives are the ones who like set the tone for their family.
For sure.
And we have so much power in how the day goes based off of our moods and our attitudes, and the way we've structured our home, and the way we've structured the schedule for the day. And there's so much within our life that's kind of our realm, and we can learn to do it well.
Yeah. I mean, God has given us such a gift of being moms, of being homekeepers, of being wives. So, you know, why not see it as almost like a challenge? And
like, I can get better at this.
I can get better at cooking. I can get better at our laundry system. I can get better at teaching my kids math, which I'm so nervous about. But all of these things, like, you can get better at it, and God's going to give you the grace to get through each day. You just have to choose that. It's just like loving somebody. You know how people say that love is not a feeling, it's a choice? It's, you can choose to see the joy and to try harder.
Yeah. Well, this was fun chatting with you. Let's wrap up episode 2. Thank you for our the people who have tuned in to listen. We really are dedicated to building this podcast and growing a community of like-minded women. There are so many communities out there that are giving life, but I feel like we're becoming outnumbered by those who are not. And so I think the more voices can speak up about traditional values and Christian ideals and biblical living, the better. Because I think so many of us, rightfully so, are kind of in our own lanes, serving our families well, honoring the Lord, but we're being like outshouted by the loudest people in our society that just want to squash what we believe God has sanctified as marriage and family and the way he has structured things. And so I hope that this podcast encouraged you. We hope you come back for episode 3. We are related by marriage.
We're related in Christ.
Join us each week as we chat all things related to motherhood.